Hello and welcome to the final part in my breakdown of my Symphony, Theseus and the Minotaur. This is the breakdown of movement 4, Ariadne and the Journey Home. If you missed the first 3 parts, those videos are up on my channel. This is also up on Patreon as the full-length breakdown of this. If you're on YouTube, this is the cut-down version. Okay, so if you've been following along part per part, this is now the part in the story where Theseus has killed the Minotaur, which was the last movement, has found his way out of the labyrinth and met up with his love interest in the story, Ariadne. And to represent Ariadne and Theseus and their love to each other, this first part of the movement is sort of like a grand love theme that I wrote to represent Ariadne and Theseus together. So to start off, we have this very sweet solo in the flute, which then gets passed on to the clarinet and then to the oboe, backed by some harp and then some soft strings. Now you can see here, they're playing tremolos here, sol tasto. Sol tasto, if you don't know, is basically when instead of the player playing in between the bridge and the fingerboard, they're playing more over the fingerboard, and that gives the sound a softer, less heavy quality. So we have this chord played by the strings. That's double in the harp. It's very soft, it's very sweet, and the chords continue. Then we have this descending line in the cellos before we get to this dramatic run and glissando up into this next section. And this is the sort of moment where I wanted it to feel sort of classic love theme from like a Gone with the Wind, or like one of those films where it's the orchestra just plays super dramatically to represent the love. There's no it's very unapologetic in this moment. And then we get to this big section. Let me just play you the beginning to the first half of the lump theme to give you a sense of what the sound I'm going for is. Check it out. Okay, so all of that is the main theme. And I have the strings playing in double octaves. So top octave, first violin, middle octave, and then lower octave, with the bass line being played by the low strings. Also have tuba helping out right there. And then the harmony is being sustained by horns. Now I have this flute trill just to add a little vibration up top. Then we get to letter B here, and we have this grand melody. That's kind of just a sequence. It's not a complicated melody at all. It's pretty basic actually. And then I have clarinets playing some of the melody here. And then harp and celeste are playing this figure. They're playing basically the outline of the chords, but in this cool sort of texture. roughly that's what it goes. And I actually got a compliment on how well this is laid out on the harp, which I'm very proud of. And then flutes and octaves to give it a little brilliance. The second flute isn't going to do much. That's kind of a weak range for it, but still plays anyway. And the cellos are playing this figure in unison with the violas, and that's a very strong sound. My teacher describes it as he calls it the Tchaikovsky voicing. Violins and octaves, violas and cellos in unison, an octave below that. It's a very powerful sound. And then make things stronger, tuba comes in here. We have more responses to the calls, and then we come back to this theme. Now upper harmonies being sustained by oboes and clarinets, which I actually liked to the sound. And then we come to this new moment. Now the brass takes over and plays Theseus' theme again. And then we go into, now we're kind of, this is the journey back home. So these are a lot of the same themes that we heard in the first movement. So we go back to what I call the Mediterranean theme. We have a quote here of the Theseus theme, da, 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 da. And then we go back to his theme, but played in the woodwinds and the horns to add some resonance and some weight there. But the dominant voice here is all the woodwinds. Okay, so then we head to letter G. Now, this whole time we hear variations of Mediterranean theme and also Theseus' theme. So you can see here, every cell that you see that looks like this, that's a reference to Theseus' theme. Da, 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 da. But it kind of goes on to its own thing, just to like make us go somewhere else, the variations on it, because we've heard it plenty of times, and then we end up at G. I'll let you listen up to that. Then we go to this little choral idea in the brass. And then this chord is important because this is going to take us back to the material from the very beginning of this symphony. You also notice right here in the harp part, I wrote big Hollywood gliss, just, you know, something really dramatic and over the top, just full of those motions. By the way, I saw this marking in Alan Silvestri's score to Back to the Future. I own the score to that, and I think in the last cue or like the main title sequence or something, he wrote big Hollywood gliss in the harp part, and that's exactly what the harp player did. So I wanted that for this because if you didn't know, the aesthetic and style of this symphony is sort of based around like big Hollywood epic films from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So it's a little old-fashioned in that sense, but that's what I wanted, and this was a really good exercise in writing like that. So that's basically it for the entire symphony. Basically, all the new bit in this is Ariadne's theme. There are definitely 100% things that I would change, like looking at this now, because I finished this over a year ago now, and I've grown as even more as a composer and an orchestrator. So looking at it, some things feel a little bare, or some things feel maybe like they would be a little unbalanced, or I could communicate my intent a little better, things like that. And there are things in the performances of the Dad Village Symphony Orchestra playing this that really exposes that stuff to me, but I'm not going to change it. This is a relic in time now, a representation of my writing in 2021. All I can do now is learn from this and apply that to the next big piece that I'm gonna write, and I'm planning on writing one, so hopefully you'll stick around to check that out whenever it's ready. But this truly was something special to work on. I want to thank Jordan Holloway again for asking me to write this. He runs the Dad Village Symphony Orchestra, and he commissioned a symphony for them to play, and this would not have existed without his asking, so I'm grateful to him. This entire PDF is going to be up on Patreon for score level members, so you can follow along to the music with my score in hand, with all of my markings on it, you know, showing you all my doublings and, you know, arrows for what my intent was. If you have any questions about how I wrote something, feel free to ask. I may or may not have a good reason for having written something, but that's sort of how it goes. And I'm also proud of my past self for having pulled this off. I had never written anything of this size before, for the full orchestra, for something that was supposed to last 20 minutes. It kind of scared me, the idea of having to write something that long, because I had never written something that long before. But I had good tutorship, a great teacher. I started writing this when I was in college. I finished writing it when I was a few months after having left college. And I was still able to have a teacher to help me along the way and course correct some of the compositional things that I was sort of like unintentionally doing, and helping clarify my orchestration that much further. Couldn't have done this without Bruce doing this, because I learned a lot in this process. So that's it for me today. Check out the full-length breakdown of this over on Patreon. Both sketch and score level members can watch the entire thing, but only score level members get the full score version of this in PDF form over there. So if that interests you, consider being a score member. Okay, that's it for these symphony breakdowns. I hope you join me in the next thing that I write. Again, feel free to ask any questions you might have. I'll try to answer any and all. And until next time, thanks so much for watching. Take care.